Welcome to Everything All Right, the literary talk where the most amazing authors discuss the best books. And my guest today is the uber-talented Alex Hay. He's joining us from East London because the paperback of his beautiful bestseller, The Housekeepers, is out. And it's Waterstone's thriller of the month of May, and it's also in the Saturday Times bestsellers list. So we're very grateful that he's taking time out of his very busy calendar and he's talking to us. Welcome, Alex.
Oh, thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. I've been watching these talks for a long time, so it's very surreal and very lovely to be chatting to you today. So thanks for having me.
That's very kind of you to say. I'm always surprised when I hear that somebody actually watches these
Yeah,
talks.
totally.
All the effort is not in vain. But I do have fabulous guests. I'm very, very welcome. I'm very grateful for the support of the writing community here. So, Alex, tell us, please, what your bestseller, The Housekeepers, and your debut actually is about. So, double congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Well, with great pleasure. So, The Housekeepers, which I have cunningly here to hand, is a historical heist, and it's set in London in the summer of 1905 and tells the story of Mrs. King, who is a very sharp-witted, charismatic housekeeper to one of Mayfair's grandest mansions, who, on being unfairly dismissed from her post after many years of loyal service, decides the time has come to enact her revenge. And so she sets about stripping this beautiful house of all its treasures on the night of the grandest ball of the season. So think Oceans meets Upstairs, Downstairs, and there you have it.
And a little bit of arsenic and old lace sprinkled in, I sort
Of
of
course.
imagine.
Yes. Yeah. All of those good things.
I love the idea of a criminal Downton Abbey. So how did you get the idea? What was the inspiration behind the book?
Good question. So I started this novel back in the summer of 2020, and I suppose there were a few things going on. So that was not, as you all remember, the most cheerful time we've all experienced in our lives. And I think I was looking to write something that would be really joyous and fun. And I had been wanting to try a heist plot for a while because the structure of a robbery story is so pleasing from a planning perspective because it gives you such clear movements. You sort of gather your team, you allow them to unveil their audacious plan, you fling as many obstacles in their path as you possibly can, and then you try to pull everything together with as much glitz and gumption at the end as you can possibly muster. So that structure really appealed to me. And I had been longing to write something set in the 1900s for a while because I have always loved what I suppose I would call the brand of the Edwardian period. Um, and on a surface level, the glitz and glamour presented by an opulent Mayfair mansion felt like a really perfect setting for quite a rackety, high stakes heist. And it seemed to me as though if I could glue those two components together, I'd have a book I would really love to write. So it was quite the first step was sort of plot meets setting, and then trying to think, okay, how can I concoct a world out of those two ingredients?
For a debut author, that sounds incredibly structured and experienced. So what is your background? Were you a journalist before? Were you in the publishing industry? Tell us.
No, I have no publishing background at all, although I've written many books over the years, which are sitting safely in drawers and never got anywhere at all. So I suppose I'm that cliche of I've been writing as long as I can remember, and reading even longer than that. And the desire to nab an agent and get a deal was, of course, not always uppermost in my mind, but probably from around my mid-20s, I really started to take it seriously and think, okay, I really want to make this happen. And in sort of my late 20s, I was on a Curtis Brown creative course, which I'm sure lots of your audience will know about or have done. And that was back in 2015, 16. And I wasn't writing this book, actually. I was writing something quite different altogether. And quite naively, I thought, oh, this is great. This is going to give me wonderful exposure to agents and loads of tips and tricks about how to do a submission package and tra-la-la. I'll be represented in no time at all. And of course, that did not happen. I wrote that book and I had a couple of requests for the full manuscript, which was very thrilling, but didn't really go anywhere. Shelved that and then sort of moved on to other projects. And the sort of deal I made with myself was, if you're really serious about this and you want to be a book a year author one day, you're going to need to start trying to write a book a year now, even if they're not picked up. And you're going to jolly well write a book a year until you get an agent. And I didn't quite do that, actually. It was more like every 18 months or so. But slowly, I think I started to learn so much more about plot. I was reading much more widely than I ever had before. And I began to sort of understand the necessity of having a good, clear genre proposition and a good, clear hook. And so I was saying to somebody else, slightly jokingly, but not really, that my trajectory was I started to get better at the hook, but the rest of the book was a bonfire. And then slowly I started to be able to shape a full manuscript that would actually get requests, but no offers of representation. And by the time I lit on the Housekeepers, I thought, okay, I'm going to just try and pull together everything I've learned, and do my very, very best by this book to get it over the line. And luckily, it all came together. But had it not, I would still be saying, right, a book a year until it happens. That would have been my mission.
But didn't you win a competition, or am I mistaken? Wasn't that
No,
sort of
yeah,
like
you're quite right.
the
Yeah, yeah,
trigger?
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. So I think writing competitions are a really good way, actually, of testing whether your idea has any legs. And I had submitted various books to the Bath Novel Award and the Caledonia Novel Award and various other competitions over the years, and I never really got anywhere. Never been longlisted, and almost didn't submit this book for one of those prizes. But at the sort of 11th hour, I decided I would put the Housekeepers in to the Caledonia Novel Award. And I suppose there were a couple of reasons why. Um, One was, I think the prize has a really great reputation. And I knew some of the fantastic books and authors that had come out of that process. And the judging agent that year was Alice Lutchens as well. And Alice was sort of on my target list of agents, but at that time, she didn't have historical fiction listed on her what I'm looking for bio, even though I knew she had good, strong historical fiction authors on her books.
She
So I couldn't
did, she
quite
did.
tell. She did. She absolutely did. And through my research, I knew. Um, but I wasn't quite sure whether she was looking for it at that moment. And I thought, well, I'll just throw it in the competition. And if it gets any further there, then maybe that will be a different way in. And she sort of like roundly told me off since then. I think, of course, I was looking for historical fiction. What are you talking about? Your research was lousy. But I put in for that competition and amazingly was longlisted and then went on to be shortlisted and did indeed win. And at that stage, Alice was able to offer representation, which was an absolute dream, and a Zoom call in sort of an otherwise gloomy winter that I will probably never forget. It was pretty special. So yeah, Caledonia Novel Award was such a sort of turbocharge and jumping off point for me, and I'll always be forever grateful.
That sounds fantastic. So what is your top tip to any nascent novelist, to somebody who would like to follow your footsteps?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I have any very compelling tips because, and I don't know about you, Ellen, but I feel like I'm sort of on the journey always. But I suppose the thing that worked for me was, in the end, just, and it's such a cliche, but just keeping going. And, I am a big believer in you really can only get better by reading more and writing more. And so I suppose if I break that down, two things that really helped me were to read much more widely and much more currently. I think when I went on the Curtis Brown creative course back in 2015, I was reading Daniel Deronda at the time, which is a wonderful book and a great novel, but not necessarily the most helpful indication of what the current market is looking for. So I think the first thing I needed to do was read much more commercial fiction, which I'd always loved and always have done, but just make sure that my reading was really fresh. And then just to keep going and to really think about your concept and your plot and your hook, and try and distill it down to that one line pitch if you possibly can, because it's
Yes.
such a good guiding rod once you go out on submission.
Yeah.
So I think those two things probably were the keys that really helped me over the line.
So what does your normal writing day look like, if there is a normal writing day?
Well, it varies. So in the past, if writing around work, it was very much about finding those windows at the beginning or the end of the day. And then, of course, it also depends on where you are in the process. So I think for me, as we're talking right now, I'm just in the sort of first week of starting a new first draft of something new. So my process is to force myself to sit in the chair and open not a Word document, but a nice Google Docs document, and just make myself put the words down on the paper, and just sort of try and build a book out of nothing. And I find that stage sort of the most daunting and the most joyous all at the same time. So really, at the moment, I suppose process is just willpower to put in the hours and get the words down. But of course, in later on, if editing, I suppose it's just about meeting your deadline and just crunching through, whether it's structural edits or line edits, just to get the job done. So no typical day, I suppose, beyond guilt if not working, and just going for it.
And getting things done. So are you building a brand? What is next for you? Another sort of Edwardian heist?
That's a really good question. And brand is such an interesting word, actually, because I suppose my honest answer is I would love to do that. And I suppose to me, a brand is a promise that you are making to a reader that they can broadly expect a certain feeling or outcome or setting or something from your book. And book 2 for me, which is coming in January, is in the same world as The Housekeepers, but stars a fresh cast and a new dastardly scheme. So it's called The Queen of Fives, and it's out in the new year, also with headline. And it tells the story of Quinn LeBlanc, who is London's most talented con woman, who is about to enact a very devious and skullduggerous high deception against one of the richest families in England. So yeah, really, really excited about that coming out and being able to play again with some of these tropes of that world.
It sounds great. It sounds as if they would make fantastic movies too, especially as you have such a sort of firm understanding of structure and plot, which is so important then to translate it into a script. Fabulous, fabulous. I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. So
Thank
that was
you.
already our talk, and now I have to struggle because I've got nothing scripted. I have to struggle to get our 5 faves together. So very quickly, without thinking, what is your favorite book, please?
Oh, maybe The Railway Children childhood book. Love it.
And your favorite film?
Um, Without thinking, do you know, I love The First Wives Club. Do you know that film? I love that film. I think that's
I
one of
know
my
the
favorites.
title. I haven't seen it. Okay.
It's so
And
good, so good.
favorite song or music or score?
Oh, I'm a Mariah Carey fan through and through. Vision of Love, what a classic, beautifully composed, amazing chords. She's a fantastic songwriter and oh, the vocal. So yeah, good old Mariah.
Excellent. What's the favorite food?
Pasta, always.
Pasta. And the favorite travel destination then? Matching?
Ooh, yeah. Do you know what? I'm just back from Italy actually. But do you know what? I think one of the best holidays I've ever had, and I've gone to lots of wonderful places, but Scotland. It's on my doorstep and it's so phenomenal. So yeah, Highlands and Islands, Scotland, I think.
It is beautiful. So I do love, in Little Britain, there's this moment where they say Scotland is a lovely place to visit between 12 and 12:05 on the 30th
Yeah,
of May.
that is so
So that
true.
kind of,
That is
as
true.
many things in Little Britain, it was very, very true.
That is
Anyways,
great. Oh, I love
so
that.
thank you so much for joining us today and everything. All right, Alex Hay. His best-selling debut, The Housekeepers, is out in paperback now. It was a Waterstone Thriller of the Month, May. And it is also in the Saturday Times bestsellers list. So go on, have a read, order it online, or buy it in your independent bookstore. I am Ellen Alpsten. Join us next week for Everything All Right. Thank you.
Thank you.